does that? Mr. Beast. He's the guy that has the biggest YouTube channel. He's like a game show. Well, he's got this philanthropy arm of his business. He's given 1,459,098 pounds of food, and he does this all just out of philanthropy. He's just a good guy. He makes a shit ton of money off these YouTube videos, but he pumps almost all of the money back into his business, and he has his show translated into multiple languages, and then he opens up these food pantries and gives people free food. He has like these Thanksgiving Day things where he gives out free turkeys. So they pull trucks up filled with turkeys, and people just pull up in their car, and he says, "Thank you, here's your turkey," and he hands people food. It's fucking great, man.
Imagine you're walking on planet Earth and you pass by someone and you say, "Hey, can you point me in the direction of north? I want to walk in the northward direction." But when you get to the North Pole and talk to somebody there and say, "Hey, how do I go further north?" They look at you and say, "Whoa, that question doesn't mean anything because this is where north begins. There's no notion of going further north than the North Pole." And it could be that that spatial metaphor applies to time. Talk about 1 billion years ago or 10 billion years ago, but if you go to 13.8 billion years ago, the Big Bang, that may be where time started. And you can't go further back in time than the very origin of time itself.
That freaks me out.
North Korea, every room has to have a portrait of Kims. And the inspector comes out of nowhere in the middle of the night and then touch the portraits. If they see any dust, they say your royalty is not high enough. And then you can get executed and sent to prison camp 3 generations of your family.
So if the picture is dusty, you get executed.
Yeah, and if your house get on fire, first thing is not you run with your family or your children or parents. You have to protect the portrait with your life. Otherwise, the 3 generation gets punished for that.
Anthony West was the first person to suggest that there should be a huge question mark over the Sphinx, that the erosion patterns on the Sphinx suggest it was much older than Egyptologists said. Yes, 2500 BC, the ancient Egyptians were there, but I believe they found the Sphinx already created and already heavily eroded, and that they then recarved its head into the head of a pharaoh, and that head is way too small in relation to the body. That makes sense if it was a heavily eroded lion head, which was then later cut down into the head of a pharaoh. The geology speaks to the original Sphinx being more than 12,000 years old.
So when you're in a hotel room, what is happening? That half your brain is not really sleeping.
And we actually know the science that one half of your brain will actually not sleep as deeply than the other when you're sleeping in an unusual room, like a hotel room. So it stays in this kind of lighter stage, almost like a threat detection system.
Right.
I mean, if you look at other species, they can do this much more impressively than we can. Dolphin, any sort of sea-dwelling mammal, can actually sleep with half a brain. So one half of their brain goes into deep sleep, the other half is wide awake,